Hi everyone, welcome back to my page, and for those of you who are new, welcome. Thanks for subscribing to my channel. On this week's topic, I wanted to discuss something that one of you guys sent in on my Instagram polls. Found it very interesting, and I'm also guilty of this sometimes, so I feel like it's all of us kind of go through this, and it's just how to get in control of your emotions. It's very easy to have an argument planned out in our heads and know exactly what we want to say to that person that has triggered us. But then we go there, we start discussing this, or we're having a conflict, and then boom, the emotions take over, you can't get your point across, you're falling all over the place, you're hurt, you're upset, and everything that you had planned in your head kind of gone down the drain. So it's important for us to learn how to control that. It's all to do with emotional intelligence, is to be more self-aware, and how you can just generally keep your cool in general and also in times of conflict. If you haven't been to my page before, please press the subscribe button. Please like and comment on this video so that you're up to date with all my content. And thank you so much for joining me, for those of you who are returning. I love hearing you guys' suggestions, so please follow me on Insta so that you're up to date with my polls that I do, so you can send in your video suggestions and I can make them for you. Anyway, let me start and just discuss today's topic, because I feel like it's so important for us to become a master of this. Is one of the first steps to take in order for you to grow your emotional intelligence and just be more wary of yourself and things that trigger you, and set healthy boundaries. So very, very important. Now, for most people, when something happens or a conflict happens, or we're faced with a situation or a person we don't really like, usually our thoughts start first. So you form a thought about someone. And that's to do with your upbringing, education, lifestyle, which the factors that affect most of us. But however, for some of us, emotions run first before the thoughts. And when that happens, it becomes very, very difficult to get hold of that, because emotions are much softer. They're not so agile. Thoughts, you can think of someone a certain way today, and the next day, like, oh, this person is a very good friend, I really like having them around, da da da. They may do or say something, and your thoughts about them will change tomorrow. So it's very agile. You can change your thinking about someone very easily. But when it comes to emotions, that's a little bit more deeply tangled. So your thoughts may think, oh, this person's not really nice or good for me, I don't really want to be around them. However, your emotions are still entangled with them, and how you feel about them doesn't necessarily change. You might think about them differently, but feeling is still there. And so that's how most people end up being in relationships that are not necessarily good for them, because they know the person is not right, or they're not the best partner, or they may be emotionally abusive, but you can't help how you feel. Therefore, your emotions are kind of taking over and keeping you entangled in a situation. So in order for us to get a hold of that and in control of that, to not let the emotions run first, so that we avoid being entangled where we can avoid it, there are certain things and tips and questions and things that you need to raise and face, so that you are just more aware of where it goes wrong for you. And it doesn't mean that all of them will apply to every situation. It doesn't mean that you will have to master all of them to get more control. It just means that you have to practice certain aspects and certain things when and where it suits you. And it takes time, so be gentle with yourself, be kind with yourself, but just make sure that you're aware of these things and you're applying them where you can. Now, we can't avoid conflict or our emotions. So the best thing and the first thing to do is that if we're faced in a situation where we'll get emotional, or that we will be faced with conflict, we have to be able to embrace it and face it. Because what happens is, the more you try and run away from it, and the more you're fearful of it, the more it ends up finding you. So, and also with your mindset, if you are thinking about someone constantly and you're missing them, the more we're gonna think about them. That's all we're going to do. So if you try and run away with something, which is the same with habits and things where you don't have control over that emotion. Let's say you're a smoker and you want to avoid thinking about smoking. All you're going to do is make yourself think more about smoking. So avoiding anything it's no good. It's just not a solution, and it will come back to haunt you either in your thoughts or in your emotions. So it's important for us to face that emotion or that conflict that we're faced with. The second thing would be to try and create distance. So let's say you're in a traffic jam heading towards the airport, and you are despising this traffic jam because it might make you miss your flight, you're stressed, you're anxious, you're just trying to get to the airport. But let's say you make the flight, you are on the plane, you're looking down at the traffic jam, and then you see how beautiful it looks from the distance. And you think about it and the cars look so pretty, look at the road, I wonder what those people are doing. Whereas when you were in the traffic jam, you thought of it very differently. And so your emotions were worked up very differently. This is why once you created some distance between what you feel in your body and your thoughts and feelings towards it, then you're just a little bit more in control. So being mindful in a situation like when you're faced with conflict or you know that you're going to get emotional is very important. And by mindfulness is just to make yourself aware that, oh look, this thought is coming round, I'm feeling these things, I need a second, I need to take a couple deep breaths and ground myself and calm myself down. So it takes away that very work upness of the situation where you're just like, and you may let the emotions take over and you may say or do something that you will regret. So try and create some distance, take a couple deep breaths, walk away where you can, calm yourself down before reacting. The next thing would be to understand that we usually make assumptions. So when someone triggers us, it's straight away, how dare they do this to me? Why are they doing this to me? Why are they hurting me? They're such horrible people, So that's what we do, and that's what makes us get very emotional. But the best way to look at a situation is to understand that what they're doing isn't necessarily to harm us. It's for them to gain something for themselves. So they're not really thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. And the minute you start thinking like that, you will not take things so personally. And the minute things are not that personal for you, then you're emotionally detached. And so you don't get so emotional in situations. That's why it's always important for us to just realize and put every possible option out there. Think of every possible outcome of why this person did what they did. If it's your boss picking on you at work and you get along with them generally, and suddenly you have a presentation you're called upon to do a presentation in a meeting that you weren't really prepared for, you didn't know. The first thing you would think is that, oh my God, how dare he put me on the spot, I can't believe that, he's picking on me, But the alternative for that would be that he thinks I'm capable. He knows that I can do this. He understands my abilities, and so he knows that I'm well prepared, and therefore he can trust me, he can rely on me. And then the other thought would be, he just didn't know any better. And it doesn't mean that he was out there to necessarily get at me or hurt me or embarrass me. It was just that he assumed something. And so he asked me, but he shouldn't have, but it doesn't mean that he had malice behind him asking me. This way, you're not going all guns blazing, you're not emotional, you're not angry. You are looking at every possible outcome. And so you're judging the situation. So you're not letting your emotions run away with the situation and your thoughts take over and think all the negative. Now, to get to the bottom of this, the next thing I would recommend for you guys to do is to actually ask questions. So you can always ask before making that assumption, and once you know the reasoning behind it, then you can make a decision and a judgment based on what you've heard, not what you've assumed. An example of this would be you coming home and your partner's left all the dishes in the kitchen, house is a mess, they're chilling, playing a game, and you've had a very long day at work and you are stressed and you're tired, and now you have to clean up the mess in the kitchen. First reaction would be, oh my God, how inconsiderate of you, how dare you, I've worked all day and you've been here playing games, whatever. But the right or correct way to go about this and not let your emotions take over is to ask, oh, how come there is such a mess? Why didn't you guys clean after yourselves? And if your partner comes back with a logical explanation that I've had a hell of a day myself, it was very difficult for me, I wasn't going to let you do this by yourself, we were going to clean it together, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And it could have just saved you a lot of upset and a lot of emotional distress had you just asked the question. But because you made an assumption and you thought the worst, you then worked yourself up and got very emotional about the situation. So this is why we need to try and not jump to conclusions and also try and ask the questions where we can. Usually there is a very reasonable explanation for situations. And if there aren't many and someone's done it just to go out of their way to harm you or hurt you, then it's because they don't really care about how you feel, and you'd rather also know where you stand with that. But hopefully there aren't many people like that around you. Most people are doing things because they're just unaware of how that's coming across to you. So you just need to communicate that and set your boundaries and discuss these things so that you guys could meet in the middle with a good compromise for both sides. Because my next point is that don't always expect people to think and do things the way that you do. Manage those expectations, because no one's promised you that they will do things the way you want them to do. No one's ever said to you that this is how you want things, so I'm just going to go about by what you want. So people don't make those promises to you. So you have to be aware of that that's just your expectations. Always look at situations that what I can do with it. How do I feel about it? Take ownership, take responsibility for your emotions and how you feel about them and why you feel the way you do. So get curious about the situation, question their intention behind it, and also question why this is upsetting you. Why do you expect someone to think or feel the way that you do? For example, let's say your mom always picks on your parenting techniques or questions your cooking method. But you need to manage that expectation and understand that they've never promised that they will not do that. That's just something that you expect from them. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be hurt by that or that you shouldn't stick up for yourself and speak up for what's right for you and set those boundaries. It just means that you will save yourself a lot of emotional distress and hurt if you understand and manage your expectation and understand that these people haven't really promised you anything. They might think that's right, they're helping you, or they choose to do that because they don't see anything wrong with it. It doesn't mean that they want to go out of their way to hurt you, they just don't realize that that's not right for you. So this is why it's important for us to learn to communicate our boundaries and make sure that our emotions don't dictate how we react to situations. We take a step back, we create distance, we calm ourselves, we get curious as to why it's annoying us and why this person may be doing it. Where we can, we ask the right questions. And then we also manage our expectations and realize that, okay, if I've spoken out about this and I've made this a boundary and it's fallen on deaf ears and they're not respecting that, they're not listening to that, then they don't really care about my emotions or how this is going to make me feel. Therefore, this is now in my court, the ball's in my court for me to make a decision about this situation as to what and how I want to tolerate this going forward, or whether I want to just remove myself from the situation altogether. So I hope that you guys found this video helpful. There's quite a few things to unpack, but overall it's just being mindful and just looking at the bigger picture and not letting our emotions run away ahead of our thoughts and ahead of our logic. Once we master that, then we're more emotionally intelligent and just emotionally aware of ourselves and the people around us. So the best way to move forward, which is what I always say, is to get to know yourself first and foremost. Once you know your likes and dislikes, your triggers and things, and you can set healthy boundaries, then you will just understand other people a lot better and you will be able to navigate situations in a very healthy, productive way, rather than emotionally lashing out and being irrational on decision making. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please press the subscribe button so that you're up to date with all my content. Please like and comment on this video, and I would love to see you guys again here next week. Thank you for watching. Mwah.